I saw this question in the Web Performance Slack group about why DevTools does a grouping of the requests like this. So it's not actually a waterfall that kind of just goes down, but at some point it kind of jumps back up, goes down a bit, jumps back up, and then finishes a waterfall. And I don't know the actual answer to that, but I just want to share like my general approach to how I look into these questions. So there's two useful tools that you can use here. The first is Chrome Code Search, where you can just search through the source code of Chromium. So if, for example, I want to find out maybe like what these two numbers mean, I just search for like a string that I see. So for example, transferred over network, and that hopefully points me to the place in the UI where that term is used. So in this case, it's also used in some comments, which makes it a bit harder to find. But most likely, I think usually there's like a JSON file with UI strings, which this is from Lighthouse, I think. No, this is a network log view, which I think is what we're interested in. So we're looking at SB transferred over network. I'm not totally sure if this is really the one that we're interested in, because it might be another one that also has a combination of the transferred over network and full size. But we click on this one anyway, and just to get the exact key that we need to look for. And then in the network log view here, I think this is where the key is actually being used. So we can navigate to this part of the code. This is how DevTools is implemented. And this, I guess, is a replacement. And ph2 is the transfer size. So what is the transfer size? Where did that value come from? This might be a different thing because this is like a summary bar. I'm not totally sure what that means. But at least it gives us this idea that there's like a request object somewhere which has a transfer size. And we can look up what that is. There might be a type. Well, I think I've saw that code before. So one thing you can search for, maybe I'm not. No, it's actually not a JS file. It's a JS, not a TS file. So if I just type DevTools into the search, right? So this looks kind of like what we're looking for. For some reason, a lot of this stuff in this repository is kind of duplicated. I'm not sure if it's like some build version of the repository. But if we look at this one, hang on, network.js is actually, no, so this is, I think, actually the definition. Although for some reason it has these weird hashes there. I don't know what this means. But anyway, I didn't care about that. I cared about the transfer size. It's a transfer size internal, which is basically the same. It's either that one or 0. Okay, well, increase transfer size and set transfer size are the keys that we can find here. So maybe let's look for those things first. I guess increased transfer size is kind of more interesting. So I would expect when I search for this, I find something like every time there's like a DevTools event called, I think, network dot something like data received. That is what I would expect to find here, where this function is actually called. In the network manager here, and you can get so it's a data received function, which is called every time the DevTools receives data from Chrome that tells it that more data for a particular request has been downloaded. And you can see that comes from encoded data length, which is a parameter that kind of comes with this data received event. I don't know, maybe this wasn't a great example to look into, just because I'm not totally sure, what question we're trying to answer here. But yeah, the point here is that you can use code search and just kind of search for stuff and, opportunistically hope that you find what you're actually looking for. So that's approach number one, to kind of find out what DevTools is doing. The other approach is to detach this DevTools window. Okay, I found my window, and hang on. Oh no, this is that one. Oh yes, actually, yeah, that's the window I was looking for. And then what I can do is I can inspect the DevTools web app. In this case, it's using Control Command I or Alt Command I. Yeah, Alt Command I works. And now I can inspect DevTools using this window. And yeah, so the question that we had was, why does this kind of group the request in this weird semi-waterfall? And generally, the easiest way to do that is to kind of just inspect the element. And for example, here you can see like flame chart canvas, and that's the kind of thing that we can then search for in the source code. Unfortunately, in this example, we actually have a canvas, so it's a lot harder to expect than something that's like a pure DOM element. So the network tab here, that's like a simple DOM stuff, but performance like has a bunch of kind of canvases, and you can't really look at exactly like what these are. Like these are not HTML elements with classes, for example. But maybe searching for that and looking at it helps anyway. And I'm not sure if flame chart, if all of these are flame charts or if they're like separate UI elements. I wonder if there's anything with network on here or like how these are used. No. So flame chart seems to be like a generic component. Oh, hang on, first let's check if this is also a flame chart. Yes, this is also a flame chart. So there's a reusable component. Maybe this one at the top as well? No. This is not the canvas. Search for the canvases on this page. Hang on, which is this? Yeah, these are canvases, but this is a canvas, but it's not a flame chart canvas. But anyway, so there's this like reusable component which is used to create a flame chart. I'm wondering if there's a class name that I can search for. So every time this thing is created, I guess there's this is like used in the network section of the DevTools panel or of the performance tab. Maybe perf UI. Hang on. So this just seems to be a string. The other approach is just going to hope that you're going to find like for DevTools performance. So that doesn't work. So I'm basically trying to find the logic that's used to render the flame chart for the network section. But maybe I can just find the general data here. So I've got the flame chart component, which I'm guessing is what's used here. And maybe if I search for network, so this doesn't tell me kind of what I'm looking for. I wonder if I just search for new flame chart. So that seems flame chart provider test DevTools flame chart. So I don't see that instantiated anywhere directly. But maybe perf UI.flame. Oh, maybe new perf UI.flame chart is like what I need to look for. With this timeline panel, which I guess I'm not sure if this is a timeline panel. I feel like there used to be like a tab called timeline in DevTools before I was running performance. Min data, is there anything network? Network flame chart. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So network data provider, network flame chart, group expansion. Ooh, this sounds kind of like something we're interested in. I don't know if this is a group expansion. If this is like a group, resize the preferred height. Let me go back to the flame chart code. Right, and what parameters does it take? Group expansion setting. I guess there's no like comments. Maybe explaining what this means. No, maybe not. So I'm a bit confused. Well, I guess like it seems like all these things kind of create this flame chart, and they have a data provider. But somehow, I guess the data provider needs to be generic enough to support all these different types of flame charts. And what's it called? Data provider. what can you do with the data provider? You get boundaries, total time. This being, what is this? Let's go back to the constructor flame chart delegate. I don't know, maybe we can take a look at what these things actually are. So this is network data provider. New timeline flame chart network data provider. So maybe if we just search for that, maybe we can see it actually provides some outputs that do grouping. Alright, so decorate entry, I would expect that to be independent of the positioning of the entry. So maybe let's ignore that for now. Prepare highlighted entry info. Well, maybe we can take another approach. We just look at the flame chart and say, how does it actually set where the position is? I don't really know much about how canvas drawing works. Chart view time to position. That's interesting. Chart viewport. I'm not sure if that's defined here. That seems separate, not DevTools related. Network waterfall column.js. That sounds like what we're looking at. This looks like it didn't. I guess I was expecting like XY coordinates, but it's not what we're getting. So maybe that's looking back at this one. I think it was in the flame chart somewhere. Time to position, compute position. And then what does compute position do? What was that used for? I don't know. Maybe marker position is something interesting here. It's just a map. Dot set. Marker indices, x and width. Well, we get back to the 6, like maybe this is helpful, but I wanted to kind of follow up on something here because we have this network waterfall column JS file, which sounds exactly like what we want. And I just want to take a look at what other method it has. I think when you're using C#, it actually, C++, it actually has a lot more kind of navigation tools and shows you all the references to a particular function, but I think for JS it doesn't work. So I don't think we have a way to just like see the function names, for example. But we can take a look at what it does. Or maybe if we do x, well, that's hard to search for. Something.x, anchor box maybe. No, that's not quite it either. But let's look at. Hang on, which way? Okay, I think I found it. Yeah, this is like x and y coordinates. Hopefully for the flame chart item. Time to position. But what we're interested in is the y coordinate. Bar y, level to offset bar level. Visible level offsets. Okay. First of all, what is this? How is it used and defined and stuff? Coordinates. Okay, coordinates to entry index. So that's I guess the reverse of where we're interested in. It takes the XY position and finds where what bar it is, and we want to find out like why it places a bar where it does. Okay, well let's find the place we were at before, where it calls it with a level. So level to offset. So let's try and find out what a level is. Entry level of the network entry. What is an entry? Timeline data entry levels. What is timeline data? Is this the timeline data? Let's find out what that is first. Oh, hang on, there's a lot of these. data provider timeline data. Right, so I guess the network data provider has the timeline data. Let me just a quick note. We can like look back at that later on. I don't think I'm being terribly efficient at figuring this out. Okay, well, I was looking at level to offset. Level was being defined. Invisible bar level. Okay, that's not really related to where this particular level is. Well, maybe let's look at the network data provider thingy. Network, I wonder if we data provider in here. No. Network data provider. Timeline flame chart, network data provider. Level? Nesting level. I'm not sure if it is nesting level or something else. Update timeline data. Start with max level 0. But it still seems like this is not the actual root source of where the level comes from. What's this? New timeline data for entry levels. Takes the entry levels, entry total times, entry start times. So this seems like it's generic. It's not specific to just a network flame chart. And it's passing in the entry levels. I mean, that's actually another thing we could do is just use a debugger to kind of step through this. This might be helpful. Yeah, maybe let's do that and see if that kind of helps us get unstuck. So this is from inspecting DevTools. Maybe if we can search for this. No, we can't. So I think because it's like the compiled Chrome, it's actually minified. But if we do this, maybe we can just try step through the minified code. Or an alternative, if there's some way to kind of just run this kind of localhost and connect to the Chrome instance, and then you can actually test it fairly easily without actually working with the minified code or having to recompile code, recompile Chromium. So entry levels. Let's just maybe, I don't know, well, maybe it re-renders if I click on here. Maybe that's not quite it. I wonder if I can just start by finding like an event listener or like just something that kind of lets me pause. Or maybe maybe the reason it's not pausing is because I'm put my breakpoint in the wrong place. Calculate draw data. It doesn't redraw. So if I re-record a new recording, I wonder if it's going to hit any of my breakpoints, or maybe they aren't where they need to be for this to work. Yes, so that works. Entry data. Oh, hang on. So e.data is animation. Hang on, what is? Let's just presume it's going to be hit a bunch of times. No, it's only hit once. Okay, not what I expected. Let's try this again. Okay, so I'm wondering if this rendering network events or append interaction record. This doesn't quite feel like the right thing. Maybe just search for levels in general, just see what the references are to that. Or I'm not sure if we can search for this network. It looks like, I'm not sure if this is compiled. Yeah, I'm not sure if these are compiled in some way. If I look for like timeline network data provider, no, it doesn't find it here. If I search a whole code, it does find it. Okay, maybe GT. Yeah, that's the pain of like working with minified code here. Well, maybe if I can like identify somewhere I want to pause from inside the data provider. Like this, the group. No, maybe this is like minified, but then I'm not actually sure because normally it would minify this and rename it to something else, but maybe it doesn't. Although maybe just this is a special case generally. Oh, because, hang on. Oh yeah, I'm looking at minified code, at the prettified code here as well. So this says max level to 0 to E, update timeline data. Okay, yeah, so this is like the same code. So maybe see if this gets hit. Yeah, it does get hit. Flameshard timeline data, entry levels. Interesting. Now the problem I have, this seems to just keep going up, and maybe I'm not looking at the waterfall, because in the waterfall I would expect like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the levels, but actually it doesn't go up like that. Entry total times. I wonder if this might be a duration. Oh, that would be very short for like a network duration. Okay, so let's first of all let's look at this, what this is. Okay, name network, which is kind of helpful. So this does it say network? Hang on, I'm just gonna check in another window what we were actually looking at, because I forgot what the name of that tab was. Or that, I don't even know, swim lane or something, what they call it. Those things here. Oh yes, it is called network. I can't see it here, but it is the network tab. So it looks like this data is actually kind of the right thing to look at. And yeah, so it has like the URL here, and it kind of looks like what we need. So first of all, I want to check, does each of these individual requests, do they have a level, or like what determines maybe where they go? Doesn't look like it, but let me check a later one where 0 could mean something else. I'm just checking as well. That's, I guess, the kind of child events, the kind of other breakdown of the like connection types and stuff. But it doesn't look like it's part of the actual event listing. So let's collapse that and try and look at some of the other things we've got here. Okay, so I guess the network requests are kind of mapped to timeline data of some sorts. So I guess this kind of makes sense. If you wanted to render a flame chart, you kind of just need to know it goes from this place to this other place, and this is the Y position. I kind of want to compare it while actually looking at what the final result looks like. So what I'm trying to do is, hang on, this. Oh no, no, oh God, what did I do? Anyway, that's not what I want to do. Did I break it? We've got the, hopefully we still have the right breakpoint, and all we have to do is record another recording here. Okay, this. I think I've got window, so I can just do window dot, and I'm a bit worried that it's going to mess up my timeline data, so I'm just going to step through this one. Also, this might be dot timeline data equals this dot timeline data. Okay, so hopefully it will actually render without messing up any of the data that I still want to keep and be able to look at. So, okay, one interesting thing as well is that I wonder if how it can represent this really long thing and why it's actually above this one. So, let me just check what bat being com is. I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's a long-running request of some kind. Oh, I did this wrong. I was hoping I was saving the data, but I'm actually just saving the constructor function, I think. But I think network thing isn't actually a real thing that I can kind of inspect here. So again, I'm looking at this. So this is, which one is actually the first one? So this is bat.bing. It is actually the first one. I don't know if it's like a navigator beacon or something from the previous time the page opened, or when we reloaded the page. End time infinity. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just misrecorded, or like it's a DevTools bug, or like some way that Chrome misrepresents what's being saved here. At least it is at the top here, and then it goes down. I'm not totally sure what to look for. So this, I guess, does not have the location data for each one, but that would be somewhere else in the timeline data. It's a 0, 1, 2, 2. Oh, hang on. I'm just wondering if it's like this is 0, 1, 2, 2. This is like they're both at level 2. So I would expect 3, 4, 4, 4, 4. No, whole bunch of ones 2, 0, 1, 2. I would expect more network requests to be recorded here. But 0, 1, 2. Unless, I mean, maybe the way I look at these isn't right. Let me just double check what the actual underlying list of requests is. Let me just pausing. Let me just also check if there's more down this line. They aren't. But these are interesting. They're all kind of all together. And also I'm not sure if this is actually true. I don't think, unless it was cached, probably hit the cache and that's why it's 0, 18. And that's why they're all kind of grouped together. I guess originally the thought it would just kind of go down, and then when it's like at the bottom, it's like, oh, I don't want to make people scroll even further, so it kind of starts back at the top. But I guess it is a bit more sophisticated than that, and actually decides to put these all into one line, and also these. I wonder if I can do some mapping here. So if I map the request data to things like the entry levels, that might be helpful. And I want each one to not just have the, not just have the request itself, but also the entry level. So I'm going to have R, I guess I just need the URL because that's simpler. And then I can map it to window network thing entry levels. Or did I not have that? No. Timeline data dot. No, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. No, it has underscore timeline data. Right, so that's done because it's not pretty. Maybe this helps. No, that does not help. Well, I guess it's too big, and that's why Chrome doesn't want to kind of show it as like an actual string, unless the other option to console log it and see if that makes this look nicer. Yes, it does. What did I just, hang on. Oh, I forgot to do one thing. I think now I'm just including everything, and I only wanted to I wanted to look at the timeline data and go into entry levels and find that request. And now Chrome is getting really sluggish because it has a huge amount of stuff in the history and it doesn't like that. But yeah, this is quite useful. So I think maybe, I don't know, I'm still not sure if this actually shows what it does. But you know, we've got this will kind of make me think that the Shopify Sans files and bold, medium and bold are all on the same level. I'm not sure. Oh, now I'm looking at these ones, which I don't. I want to search. This is the first reference to that, or maybe it just isn't shown. Oh yeah, now I can see this. So these are all on the same level, extra bold as well. Lux.js, is it also on that level? Yes, it is. Tricky brochure, not. Oh, that's 3. It's on level 3. So I guess now we know that the entry level means where it's located. So now all we have to figure out is how the entry level is decided. Okay, here we go. Append entry. I wonder what class this is. If it's the network data provider one or some subclass. It's a top level one. I wonder if like each group has like its own class, or each level has its own class, but it doesn't look like that. Maybe I can find the append entry function, can hook into there and pause. Is this what I'm looking at? Yeah. It kind of doesn't quite look like what I was looking for, because it does like it looks at like this.request -1, which wouldn't like give us the behavior we expect. But let's try and re-render and see when this actually gets called. Right, this.request.length, it pushes 0. It would push 1. Would push 2. And does it push 2 again? No, it pushes 3. Let me just click on this a whole bunch more times and we can look at entry levels. Right, so first, at least it just does this. Let me just remind myself what timeline data is. So maybe the timeline data model kind of updates the levels later on. One thing that I'm a bit confused by as well, append entry here is timeline data internal, and here it's just timeline data. No, it's not. I don't know, maybe this is renamed. Maybe internal is like a postfix that kind of maps it in like the build process or whatever. Maybe update timeline data, which is just above. Maybe it gets called later on. Let me disable this one. Right. So maybe we have all the timeline data and then it kind of gets updated. Right, so we have this, which we understand why it's there because this is how it was pushed, but then I reckon maybe it gets updated. And this is where it is reset. Let's just, oh yeah, so it goes through a bunch of things. I wonder if it has more meaningful names in the original source code. So going through a list of requests, and then this seems to be the level allocation logic. If we understand what's going on here, then hopefully that explains how the grouping comes to be. First, maybe one thing that might be interesting to try out is if we can bypass this. So I'm wondering if I can prevent this code from running. And I feel maybe if I can't edit it because I think it's a formatted code, so I can't just put a return statement in here. So I guess one simple thing. Okay, hang on. Actually, this dot entry. Okay, so we back that up. Dot slice. We run through all of this, and at that point, I would expect our entry levels to have been kind of updated to support the grouping. And then, so let's see how that goes. I would expect this to not be grouped anymore, which I don't think worked, although I'm not sure. I forgot if I allowed this to run again or not. I don't know. Maybe let's not follow that course of investigation. Let's try and just look at this code here. What is last time by level? Okay, it's just like keeps track of all the levels that it's decided to use already. Okay, so when we start, this is going to be empty, so this won't be called. So when it talks about last time, I wonder if there is a begin time. It compares to the begin time. Does it just like keep pushing them in as long as there's space? But then, or maybe it does. But it starts here. This row is full. This row, well, this one doesn't fit in there, so it just goes and starts putting them in there. No space to put this one because it will overlap here, and then put this one in, and then the next one, there's space for the next one, so it kind of puts that one in there. And that kind of seems to explain like what it does. It just keeps putting them in, and it goes to the next row if it would overlap, and if it wouldn't overlap, then it doesn't. So It seems like that will explain like why it goes down. It doesn't explain why at some point it decides to go back up. And maybe actually in this no, Shopify recording, it doesn't go back up. I'm not sure what it does. So I guess like if it were to just like look for the first position where there's space, then this one would be up here. Although I think it tries to fill the level. So that's okay. I should probably just read the code and properly understand what's going on. But it seems to keep trying to put into the current level, the last level it was putting stuff into, unless the next one it needs doesn't fit into that previous level. And then it goes to the next one. And it doesn't like put it like here even though there's space. It's pretty fun to step through with non-minified code. So it keeps setting it to max level, and I guess is max level? No, max level isn't incremented directly, but it just pushes it by level. So can we actually see the phenomenon that we try to explain in here? Oh, I think it might re-render actually when does it re-render on scroll or like in zoom? Yeah, it does. The thing is, in this recording, I don't actually see a good example where it jumps back up to the top of the recording. It just keeps going down. Let's go back to this one. Does it actually do the thing where it jumps back to the top? Yeah, it does. So this is not just something that gets triggered right after the document request. Like it first makes these ones go to the bottom and then jumps back up. It goes through the list of requests twice. And what does the second one do? If it is -1, which I think just meant it's invisible. Oh, well, I guess that doesn't matter because those are just because the grouping kind of depends on, I guess, the size of them and like how they are when they happen. I wonder why this is needed. Oh, I think it just adds if you added a new one, which it might have done, then updates max level. Although, I mean, if you push here, I would expect you could just do max level plus plus. I wonder if I can just find like a nice example where it actually happened, then that might make it easier to look at what's going on and why it goes back to the top. So maybe the Shopify example is not great. What other websites are there? Well, I might just try another page. And just make sure that everything kind of completely finishes running, just in case, longer profiles cause it to group it that way more. Okay, so I'm pretty sure now we can see this is happening. Okay, so let's put this one here. And then I think if we scroll, if we drag around in it, then it will try and rearrange things. Let me just step through a bunch of these things, and then let me just check how did it override it at the end. All right, it just overwrites entry levels on here. So the data we need to look at and see if it's changed is this dot timeline data dot entry levels. Right, so no, this isn't what I expected. I expected in the beginning, before this is called, it would always have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It had not already been grouped, but now it looks like it has already been grouped. But that might just be because I'm not completely re-rendering everything. Because now it already has. No, it doesn't have the jumps. Does it have the jumps? Maybe 40. Yeah, so it goes 3. It already has those jumps, which I'm a bit surprised by. I wonder if I can force them to reset. So I drag, and then, well, that's a bit annoying though. I'm gonna have to, I would have to create a new array with 205 items and make sure all the resorting still happens. Let me see if I switch to the network tab and then completely re-render. Well, it doesn't completely re-render. It looks like it doesn't run this code again. Okay, then what I'm going to try is I'm going to do another recording, and hopefully this time I can look at the array before it's resorted. Okay, timeline data is null, which is good. Okay, it's pushing stuff here. So we start at 0, we go to like 250, and now, yeah, this is what I would have expected last time. And somehow what's going to happen here is it's going to reduce the level and go back down again. So let me just t.length. Okay, so I'm going to disable this a bit until t.length is greater than, I think, maybe 20. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this yet. So let's review at this point what stuff looks like. So it's going to kind of all the way to here, it's going to group them. And then where would it actually set the value? Because like t.length I think isn't going to go down anymore, but then somehow the later timeline entries, they do have a lower level. So that's a bit confusing, unless t.pop it does. But then even when it does a pop, it always does a push right after. So I am confused. Well, let me just, I'm a bit worried I'm going to miss this again, like where this transition happens. Has it done the transition? Hang on, where does it? Oh yeah, this is like 50, 90, but it's still, okay, hang on. So there's two places where it's going to push stuff. So I expect, so I'm pretty sure, I'm thinking that by this point it will actually have updated the whole grouping. And I'm a bit worried that if I run all the way to here, I might miss where the logic changes. Maybe if I just keep doing this. Oh, close this. And I can create a watch point. No. Oh, did I? Why? Why is it? Oh no. Yeah. Before I was watching the string, which is, oh no, it doesn't actually, it's just weird. I don't know what it is. So this is it's 90. This is just before it gets updated. And then, oh yeah, it takes the end time from the previous item, puts the enter as the new item, and kind of updates the end time of that way. 51. And maybe I can do it so that it only does this. It only breaks if it's less than 50. And I wonder if that's going to happen. Yes. So what just happened? T.length. T.length is 1. What happened to T? Oh no, it actually pops a bunch of these. Let me just... Okay, maybe I didn't quite understand this. So last time by level length, pretty much always the case after the first one is inserted. Unless... this is T, right? Yeah. Well, I assume back then T had actually a value. I'm not sure if I'm just being a bit stupid here. If I had a chance to see and step through. Okay, let's look at, maybe let's try and do this. So we're looking at this.endtime. What is, Why is it this now? It's a bit weird. Oh no, this is just like recompiled. Is this the end time? This is the start time. Um, I have no idea what kind of weird compilation step is happening here. I mean, and this is no what? No, oh yeah, it is this network data provider. Right, so this data is still there, but it looks like it has cleared for some reason. It has cleared all the entries in last time by level. And why does that happen? I mean, it means that this has always been true. The last time was always less than the begin time of, I think, this request. Well, let me check what we don't have s.begin time. Okay, well, is that true? Bit hard to compare. Okay, so the start time that we've got, I'm not sure if this is like microseconds or seconds or whatever. This is always the same. Okay, so this begin time of the request, and is that always less than or last time by level? This is actually a bit confusing here. Hang on, maybe not. Okay, so this is the list of requests. It goes through the list of requests, which makes sense. Oh yeah, this is the if. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm looking at the same code. Yes, I think I am. Except this if statement is not closed, and there's no continue, so it's kind of just rewritten it in a way it's a bit harder to understand. What happened to T here? I wish I could just kind of step back a couple steps and see what happened. Well, in theory, I'm pretty sure this happens several times. So maybe I could just try and continue. Well, let's see. I guess this will just keep hitting it until it kind of goes over again. Well, okay, so now I'm assuming it's just resorting the stuff that we already had earlier. Yeah, so it doesn't actually need to do anything. It's just kind of resorting it without needing to. So if we look at why it goes back up to the top. So why is this Google page ad thingy here? And then it goes up to the top again. And it's not even like right, it seems like it goes pretty far, T4, T6. And then this, well, it goes also around T4, 6. And then here, well, maybe it might be interesting. Hang on. Well, no, that doesn't help because it doesn't redo it. But if I could just target this drift widget and figure out why it decides for this one, it should go back up. What just happened? Oh, now it goes back up earlier. Okay, so let's try and debug this. I'm gonna keep track of a pop count. We're gonna reset our pop count every time we get here. I hope I can add the breakpoint. Oh no. Oh yeah, I can add the breakpoint here. And then window.pop count ++, and then at first we have to initialize it. Just wondering how we do that. So Oh, actually, it's pretty. I was wondering how we're going to actually put the debugger in here, but well, we're already in the breakpoint, so we can just do like window popcorn greater than 2. We are at I equal 32. I wish it was source map. So last time by level is this. We have all these times, and now there's a bunch of popping. And why is that? T.map. Map the value to is the value less than or equal to. Because this should tell like how much it's gonna pop. Well, this in this case it's gonna pop all the way, and except the topmost one, just because it goes to infinity. But I'm a bit confused. Maybe the order. So it might just be something that's caused by the initial order of the requesters not being in order that they're made. Okay, so this request, we've got all these lanes, or like whatever the levels. They have a certain endpoint, and then this is less than the last. I mean, to like last time by level. I'm not really sure what to do. Maybe a good idea is to just look at the hypothesis that, maybe this is caused by the request just not being strictly ordered. We are looking, I think, at number, this is not number I, which is 32, so it's 32 actually earlier. Yes. So maybe it jumps to the top when a request comes in and that request is earlier than the previous one. So where would we expect these things to happen? So first of all, 32. This should be a jump to the top. Visible. Are there any other things that kind of look jumpy? 18, 20, 22, 18. Then we expect this for drift. We just saw earlier, which kind of sounds nice. 40, 67, and this all appears to be in order. Okay. Okay, so let's render all of this and stop breaking on stuff. And we expect my Pinterest one we missed. Drift and hang on. I think visible is the other one we looked at. Visible, yes. So it looks like the order of events is wrong, I guess. Depends how you define wrong. It looks like maybe this is just how the network events came in from the DevTools protocol from Chrome and they weren't reordered. And maybe they should be reordered. Maybe this is just like accidental. I don't see like the immediate logic, like why this is how things should behave. Let me just figure out, like, can I actually understand why this goes all the way to the top? Because I'm a bit confused, because why did it go so high up? I know it would go up a bunch of places because of the last time by level value here, but then clearly, like the last time on this level is here, and it's not less than that. Or maybe maybe my model of what last time by level means actually isn't real. So let me just check. So I was having to like run through this again, pause, but now I just tried my breakpoints. I have to reset it. But the last time by level is it actually what I expect it to be? Oh, actually, so last time by level can actually go back down to a lower number if you pop it and then put something in. And actually, okay, now it makes sense. So this last time by level for level 0 is definitely less than the begin time of this one, so it makes sense to go all the way up. And the reason it normally doesn't, so basically it always goes all the way up if it can, but usually it can't, because like this one, it wants to go all the way up, but it can't go up because it would stop the loop here. So it probably is intentional. Okay, yeah, I think I got it now. So it always tries to find the highest possible place, starting with where it's now. But if it can't go up, then it goes down, but it tries to kind of save space that way. I don't know, I'm not quite sure I totally understand what's going on yet. And I don't know, maybe it still feels a little bit like a bug because the only reason this happens is because stuff is out of order. Or maybe it can also happen if the network is completely idle at that point. Oh, maybe, I'm not sure if Zoom is gonna, but you can see there's no request in progress here, and it kind of starts a new waterfall every time there's no request in progress, because then it can actually go all the way up, and otherwise it can't. And yeah, likewise here, there's like basically this tiny space where there's nothing going on. It jumps back to the top. Yeah, oh, yeah. So a bunch of behaviors here, like it tries to fill the whole row, and then you can see here there's space. It can actually go back to the top, and it jumps back to the top and starts over and starts a new waterfall. So yeah, I'm not sure what the role is of the start times being out of order, but generally I think now this behavior makes sense to me. Okay, well this took a bit longer than I was hoping it would take. But yeah, I guess like the kind of three strategies you can kind of use to understand DevTools behavior if like you can't find it in the documentation is kind of search in the Chromium search, code search tool, which is very helpful. Inspect the DevTools just to see, what the DOM looks like. And then finally, if that still doesn't help and you can't find what you need in the code, kind of step through it and try to see like what the data looks like at runtime. And yeah, hopefully this helps in the future to kind of figure out like what DevTools is doing, or like generally kind of if Chrome does something kind of unexpected,